Afternoon, everyone. So good afternoon, fellow Rotarians, lovely aunts of the Rotary Club of Makati, dignitaries and guests. I am CP Machete Torres Ackerman of the Rotary Club of Makati Business District, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon's joint meeting. Now, call on our classmate PVP Peter Manzano to call this meeting to order, to be followed by the co-host club's presidents.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Peter Manzano, the president of the Rotary Club of Makati. I hereby call this meeting to order.
So now, to introduce our honorable speaker, let's all call on PVP Ann Acuña of the Rotary Club of Makati Lumina to introduce our speaker.
Right. Thank you very much, classmate Mache. I'm here. I have the privilege to introduce our very esteemed speaker. Our speaker today is a efficiency of public access, protection of the rights of mothers, children, commuters, and consumers. In her first term as senator, she immediately set to work creating meaningful legislation, more than 50 of which are now fully enacted laws. Among these are the laws providing for free lunch program for public school children, for maternal and child care for the first 1,000 days of the life of a child, for free text alerts in times of disaster, for extended validity of driver's license and passports, and making our streets, public spaces, and workplaces safer by prohibiting all forms of sexual harassment, just to name a few. She recently won a second term as senator and continues to serve our country, especially our most marginalized and disenfranchised sectors. For her track record in governance, she was chosen as a Lee Kuan Yew Exchange Fellow of the National University of Singapore, a prestigious recognition of excellence in public service. Without further ado, let us all welcome Senator Grace Poe.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the introduction, Ms. Acuña. I would like to greet all of the members present here today in our online session. Of course, the president of Makati Rotary, Mr. Peter Manzano. I would also like to greet two Junes. The first June, of course, one of your members, June Palafox. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday. And also June Samson, who happens to be a distant relative and one of those that run the University of Luzon in Dagupan. Hello, June. I think you were the past president from 2018 to 2019. So again, good afternoon to everyone. Magandang hapon po. Sana ay nasa mabuting kalagayan. It has been almost a year since Metro Manila went into lockdown. While the detrimental impact of COVID-19 on households and businesses have been experienced by all, the burden on women has been especially felt, with the entire family quarantined at home. Women have suddenly become chefs, nurses, cleaners, and tutors to their young children who are required to do online learning. Meanwhile, their particular needs have not always been met due to lack of public transportation, access to maternal and reproductive health services for women in poor communities has been seriously limited. We also read about the unfortunate rise in domestic violence during the lockdown period. I believe that we must provide more support for vulnerable cases who have been affected by this health crisis more acutely than others. Both the public and private sector must do their share towards ensuring the health, safety, and well-being of all workers. But this being Women's Month, we are reminded to give particular attention to the plight of women. A 2019 study of JobStreet found that a gender pay gap still exists in the Philippines. Data collected from skilled workers and those in supervisory or management positions show that an average male employees earn more than their female counterparts. Thus, as employers or company owners, we must ensure that all employees have access to equal opportunities and equal pay. For when enterprises are gender fair, everybody wins. When a woman realizes her potential, she uplifts everyone around her. When we create a culture of respect where no one is subjected to sexual harassment or discrimination, the morale of the entire organization is raised. Both men and women have a role to play in achieving all this. We are allies and not enemies. So I commend the male membership of the Makati Rotary for giving it up for the ladies and sponsoring this timely discussion. In line with this, I co-authored the Safe Streets Act. The act strengthens the law prohibiting sexual harassment and expands its coverage to include offensive acts which are committed in public spaces or in cyberspace. I also co-authored the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act or Bayanihan 2 law, which provides support for our entrepreneurs. It has been observed that during this pandemic, Filipino women displayed resilience, strength, strategic thinking, and the ability to adapt. For instance, many families were saved from hunger by enterprising mothers who went online to sell a multitude of products. The Bayanihan 2 law provides for loans for micro and small enterprises. It also directs all banks and financing companies to grant a moratorium on loan payments, a reprieve for utility bills, and a grace period for residential and commercial rents. I also introduced a law to promote digital connectivity. Clearly, better internet accessibility will improve e-commerce, e-government services, online health, and online education. Today, with the world experiencing a health pandemic, it has been internationally recognized that the countries that best handle the crisis are led by women. These include Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand, Angela Merkel of Germany, Tsai Ing-wen of Taiwan, Sanna Marin of Finland, and Mette Frederiksen, Denmark. The results of studies comparing 194 countries' response clearly indicate that women leaders reacted more quickly and decisively in the face of potential fatalities. Before I conclude my speech, I would like to appeal to all the women in the room. In order to overcome this health pandemic, we cannot remain in the background. We need women with leadership skills, integrity, and determination to unite and rise to the fore. Tiwala lang at kaya natin ito. Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Senator Grace. So we're always glad to have you with us in our Rotary Club meetings. And thank you so much for sharing us your valuable time, very, very valuable time. So, Madam Senator, we have some questions for you. All right.
Yes.
So we have a first question here from Irvin Bailon, President of RC Parañaque North. From Erwin, our community in Merville, Parañaque, where women are empowered through social civic organizations like RCP North, recently encountered problems with a Chinese contractor of the C5 South Link segment 3A2, as it refused to adhere to environmental impact assessment laws and the need to consult with affected communities first on its adverse impacts prior to implementation of environmentally critical projects. On the other hand, agencies use the build policy of the executive branch as an excuse to overlook these lapses. Is there a way for the Senate to review these laws so that related agencies like TRB, DPWH, and DENR tighten their rein on these contractors and be themselves accountable if these contractors and project owners fail to adhere to our laws?
Absolutely. I think that's paramount that these companies adhere to environmental laws and building permit laws. You have Mr. Palafox here as a member. I'd like to clarify what sort of project is this? What infrastructure project? Would you know?
Um, PVP Erwin, would you like to answer?
Yes, good afternoon, Senator Grace. I'm Irwin Bailon, President of the Rotary Club of Parañaque North. This project is a continuation of the existing C5 Cavitex connection. This is it's owned by the Cavitex Infra Corp under the MVP Group, but it is operated, or the construction is under a Chinese controlled firm. It's called China Harbor. They're in partnership with a local Filipino contractor, Oreta, but I think it's controlled by the Chinese, and even the signages are in Chinese. So, and the workers are mostly Chinese. Um, and we've encountered problems like, well, um, even before um, the full construction phase, which is mid-March, they've already started doing pre-construction work, diggings, um, excavation work, without prior notice to the public, especially the affected communities of Merville, Moonwalk, and Barangay 201 of Pasay. There are a lot of senior citizens and young people, 10 years and below, this in this villages, and we're concerned about their health. And as I'm also an urban planner by profession, so I'm aware of the environmental impact assessment system in our country, and it is required for these contractors, especially doing environmentally critical projects like this highway project, to coordinate with the local government, the barangays, the city government.
All right. Thank you, classmate Erwin. So sorry for cutting you because our senator doesn't have much time to answer all the
Actually,
questions.
let me respond briefly to that.
Yes,
I would
yes.
like to know more about this.
Okay.
If Erwin can please submit to our office his particular concern about that. Certainly, we will look into it. And even if it's a Chinese contractor, the main company responsible, of course, would be the MVP Group, if that's the case in this particular project. So we would like to see if they're really compliant with all the necessary permits that are required. And of course, public information is very important. They need to notify the homeowners association of the status of that project and whatever environmental impacts it might have. So please submit that, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator, and thank you, President Erwin, for the question. Our next question is from President Conrad Banal of the Rotary Club of Makati Dasmariñas. What can the government do about the alarming increase in teenage pregnancy? How can organizations like the Rotary help? Thank you for the question, President Conrad. So, Senator?
Well, as you know, there should really be a full implementation of the reproductive health law. Many of us are in support of this. I think that education is also very important. It should be integrated in our educational system, how to be responsible. Of course, we will not be forcing reproductive means to our children without giving them the proper education for it. And not only is teenage pregnancies on the rise, but also HIV. And that's quite alarming. These are issues that are not really being discussed now when the focus is all in the pandemic, but it's definitely been on the rise. So when Rotary Club does its youth arm orientations or online discussions, I think that it is important to raise awareness on this and for parents to be openly discussing this with their children. I know that for some religious constraints is a factor, but I myself talk to my young adult children about being responsible with their bodies, and also contraception. That's the reality. Whether or not you agree with it, it's them who will decide. And at the moment they make a decision, hopefully they're informed about the choices that they have.
Thank you for the answer, Madam Senator. Now, may I call on past President Reggie Nulido of the Rotary Club of Makati for his question. Reg, are you there?
Good afternoon, Madam Senator. First of all, I'd just like to tell you that your daughter Hannah was my student in Ateneo 5 years ago.
Oh no!
And she was a good student. She was a good student, I'll tell you that.
I just go, thank God. And nabuko na kung sino yung mga young adult kids ko. So what were you teaching, sir? What were you teaching?
At Ateneo, ma'am.
I know, but what
Obligations
subject?
and contracts. Obligations and contracts.
Oblicon. Okay. All right.
Oblicon, yeah. Anyway, I am a resident, ma'am, of Marikina. And one of the problems that has come to our attention is that the reason why there's so much flooding in Marikina is because there have been reclamations and structures that have been put up right beside the river that has narrowed the river down and then caused the flow of the river to slow down. And this is really one of the reasons why so much flooding has happened in the recent years. There has been a move by the mayor of Marikina to file cases against the owners of these properties that have reclaimed. However, things don't appear to be moving in the right direction. Ma'am, I hope there is something that Congress can do to address the fact that, in fact, these structures are against the water code. No? So maybe this is something that Congress can look into to try to see if we can reclaim or the proper flow of the river so that we can avoid more flooding in Marikina. Thank you, ma'am.
Professor, actually, when you look at the map of Metro Manila, there are a lot of waterways that are impeded because of illegal structures that have not really passed the proper environmental scrutinies, not just in Marikina. There are so many theories about the flooding in Marikina, like when the water, illegal logging, and also the improper dredging. I would be the first to admit that I'm not an expert in that, and that doesn't really fall under my committee, which I believe is under the committee of Senator Cynthia Villar. But certainly, kung paulit-ulit nang nangyayari, hindi pa rin natin magawa ng solusyon, ibig sabihin hindi nagagawa ng maayos o nai-implementa ng maayos yung mga polisiya. Kasi nga, siguro may mga special interest groups na hindi mahindian. Alam ko, hindi naman tayo nagkukulang ng mga eksperto na nagbibigay ng solusyon para sa mga problema na yan. But I think that flooding in a big way in our country is more of a political problem, sometimes more than an environmental one. Because we know that with the proper political will, it can be solved. So I'm sorry I can't really give you an answer as to the real root cause of it, nor can I give you a solution at this time. I won't pretend to be an expert, but I hope that we can invite you at some point when there's a hearing on that in the Senate.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Professor, past President Reggie, thank you for the question. All right, so Senator, we have some more questions. So I think we still have more time. So if it is okay, ma'am, we have like 3-4 more questions here. So the next question is, taking this opportunity, we need the government to address the global warming issue. Do we have a law on this regard, like LGUs through their constituents required to plant trees or some other endeavors to confront global warming? Okay, Senator?
Well, yes, of course, we have environmental laws in place. It's not really the law that's the problem. It's mostly the implementation of it, and especially with the LGUs. there's some LGUs that are very progressive when they segregate their waste, but as we've seen, there are many that unfortunately they don't. I don't know if they don't realize or they figure there are other ways around it. But in places where tourism is a lucrative industry, unfortunately in these places they don't maintain the proper sewage system or even the proper disposal of waste. Now, there's a controversial uh, bill in the Senate, or at least it's being deliberated on, about when it comes to how waste can be reduced. And some are for incineration. Of course, there are the environmental groups that are concerned about the toxicity of this, but there's also the other side that says in other countries that employ this, there's been not that much reports on the health impact. So the problem is open pit waste, or where they dump their waste when it's illegal and it's not being monitored properly. I hope that the local governments can actually be monitored when it comes to this.
Thank you, Senator. Actually, you're right. Of course, we have the laws, but it's the implementation that is the problem. It's about waste management, right? So we are blessed to have the best urban planners in Rotary. So, Architect June, I saw you raising your hand. Maybe your comment on this is very important.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Mache and Senator. My daughter Carmi, who is now based in Sydney, was telling me yesterday, even in cities in Australia that have zero COVID cases, they found out that COVID-19 is hiding in the sewerage system. And if you look at our country, 180 out of our 400 rivers are open sewers, plus the canals and so on. It seems our policy decision makers are not yet aware that the COVID-19 is hiding in our rivers, polluted rivers and canals. And so we discuss about health, environment, and waterways. And all of these are interrelated. And thank you, ma'am. You may want to sound this off to policymakers and the committees and Senate. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Senator. And Carmi is now in Sydney. My daughter is an urban planner, and he championed for your candidacy last time.
Wow, at least she followed in your footsteps also. Well, engineer, I that's interesting to know that the sewage system has a lot to do with it. Oo nga naman, I mean, you can get so many different diseases from untreated water and open sewage. So I hope, well, the Senate's only one part. We give the budget for it, but the executive also has to step up and do the planning so that we know what we're funding.
Yes, ma'am. Even in Japan right now, they advise their citizens that when you flush the toilet, you must cover it. The COVID can come out from our poos. So cover the toilet when you flush it. The COVID might be hiding in the toilet also. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Thank you. Good to see you, sir, and happy birthday.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right, we have a comment here actually that there are women groups that our foundation could get in touch for livelihood programs for our agri-ecotourism in the central Luzon areas. Okay, another question from Danny Picacha. Please share your thoughts to us about the change that women should have in leadership in government, in the community, and at home. Thank you from Rotarian Danny of the Rotary Club of Las Piñas. So, Senator?
Well, the Philippines has been cited as one of the most progressive countries when it comes to gender equality and the role of women. Unfortunately, that's not reflected in many of the government offices and even in the private sector. For example, in the Senate, how many senators, women senators are there? I think there are like 7 of us out of 24. That's still a very small fraction when you think that in the population-wise, the number of women is actually a little bit slightly more than men, if I'm not mistaken. So in the Senate, 7 women na nga lang, and then 1 is detained pa. But if you look at the laws that were championed by the women in the Senate, you can see that a lot of it have a direct impact on the family. Like, for example, you have the reproductive health law that Senator Pia Cayetano. In my case, I championed the free lunch program in public elementary schools, which I think is very important because many of our children are not only malnourished, but they're also stunted. And we know that their brain capacity will not develop if they're hungry. So, infrastructure is important, but you also have to invest in your actual people. The quality of our education is important, but the students themselves need to be healthy in order to absorb what's being taught to them. What's tragic is if you'd see kolelat na naman tayo when it comes to reading and math in the world. So anyway, these are concerns. Another bill that I filed and it passed is the first 1,000 days of a child's life, where the government will give support to the mothers and also to children up to the age of 2 years old. So what does this include? Through the barangay health centers, they should be given vitamins,
Hello,
food,
Jan.
food supplements, and also care and monitoring by their local health professional. So, alam mo, yung mga babae, simple siguro yung pag iniisip yung mga batas, hindi ganun ka-komplikado. Pero, pag iniisip mo naman kung ano talaga yung benepisyo ng batas na ito yung mga batas na kailangan natin ngayon. So, konti lang yung mga babaeng senador. Sa Senat, sa Kongreso, wala pa rin 1/4. Yung cabinet secretaries, ilan ba? Parang 2 lang ata sila. Tourism and education. So we need more women para balanse naman ang pananaw.
Thank you, Senator. So I guess I will just have to read the questions as related to our topic this afternoon, which is about women. And we appreciate that you're wearing pink because pink is the color for Women's Month. So, all right, Senator, here there's a follow-up question which is related to what we were talking about. There is an alarming rate of women who are being exploited sexually in the internet as objects of desire. Also, young children, when as parents are away, have the risk of also accessing pornographic websites. I have a young daughter and I see declining morals because of uncensored sites in the internet. We have MTRCB to censor movies, but no MTRCB for internet. Is there a way for the government to restrict pornographic websites in the internet, especially if the people accessing the internet are young children? Meaning by default, these bad websites will not be allowed access unless the consumers will sign a waiver that they are allowing access to these websites in their Wi-Fi or data plan. The question is from President Mark Fernandez of the Rotary Club of Makati North.
Hi, Mr. Fernandez. That's the internet or the web is really a challenge to monitor. Even if we wanted to, we wouldn't really have the manpower to do that. Now, having said that, the MTRCB can't also possibly regulate everything. The involvement of parents is very important to monitor what their children is doing, but also important is to expand the expertise and the funding for the NBI. They have a cyber group that actually does the investigation and also catching sites that exploit children and also women. Unfortunately, the last that we heard in our hearing, there's just a handful of them. So they can't possibly track many of those sites. The problem also is if, let's say, you have your own computer and then your router, your Wi-Fi, you don't know necessarily what sites to block because some of these sites are seemingly harmless, but actually it's only when you visit those sites that you see that there are quite very disturbing content. So it's really a joint effort between government and the household. I know that parents cannot watch their children 24/7, but conversation is very important for you to make time with your children, for you not to be embarrassed to ask your kids about the sites that they visit. And if you could, I mean, check on them periodically or as often as you could. Because kung, kung tayo nalulusutan, um, pag may nahuli naman tayo, I think that the government should be able to step up, investigate, and throw these people in jail if they're caught. But the problem is, again, the manpower is very limited. Um, More than pornographic sites, I think there's also more pressing concern to make sure our children aren't reading fake news and fake information. When you think about pornography, of course, that needs to be stopped. But also, what is alarming is that there are a lot of fake news that come out from sites that are unvetted. So encourage your children that if they read something in the internet, Facebook, or they see it on Instagram, that they verify with credible news sources to see kung totoo yan o hindi.
Us more. I know we have our time constraint here. And thank you so much once again, Senator, for your very, very insightful and inspiring sharing. And to all the participants for your questions. And Senator, we hope to spend more time with you. But after all, we are all very, very grateful for sharing with us your very most valuable time. We know how busy you are. So thank you so much. And now may I call on our President, Peter Manzano, for his response.
Thank you, CP Mache. That the world has devoted the full month of March to recognize and celebrate all women and their contributions to society only means one thing: the work isn't finished. Feminism is a range of social and political movements as well as ideologies that seeks to promote gender equality, where men and women have equal opportunities in all spheres of life and which encourages women to make contributions to society. This movement has gone a long way with its history divided into three distinct waves. The first wave was in the 19th and early 20th centuries, which mainly focused on women's right to vote, although the first ever recorded time when women were allowed to vote was in 1689, which was only accorded to female landowners. In the Philippines, it was not until April 1937 through a special plebiscite when our women gained the right to vote. It was a resounding yes, with 91% voting in favor of the measure. The second wave started in 1960s, which focused mostly on the campaigning for legal and social rights for women. And the third wave began in the 1990s, which focused on more women's issues like women's reproductive rights and the fight against unequal pay. Certainly, there's still that gap that needs to be closed. The Philippine Commission on Women has made a 5-year theme, 2017 to 2022, for the National Women's Month celebration. We make change work for women. Internationally, this year's theme is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. In the past 12 months, we have witnessed how women around the world and in the Philippines have exhibited their sense of leadership amid this crisis. Countries like New Zealand, Taiwan, and Germany, among others, all led by women, have superbly handled the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, as mentioned earlier by Senator Grace. We don't have to look very far. Here in our country, we have seen how women leaders, both in the national and local levels, have shown compassionate, decisive, and systematic action to prevent the spread of the virus, provide relief to those affected, and keep the economy afloat despite the effects of the lockdowns. Truly, women have shown what they're capable of doing and how they are crucial in building our nation. This awesome display of leadership and dependability by our women should all the more encourage our society to address the inequality prejudice, and violence that continue to beset women all over the world. Last week, I asked my two teenage daughters whether they think women are still at a disadvantage at this day and age. Their answer was a crisp yes, citing statistics on inequality on women's pay, as our Honorable Speaker confirmed earlier, work opportunities, and position in society. You see, we may not find this gender inequality relevant in our homes as Rotarians, but they're very much real in many parts of the world. There are women of all ages that are still treated as second-class citizens, whose contributions to society are considered irrelevant or dismissed as unimportant. It is just mind-boggling how a woman could spend 9 months carrying a child, bring life to the world, and spend a lifetime nourishing and raising a child, and consider such feat and sacrifice irrelevant or unimportant. Unfortunately, it is for many parts of the world. Incidentally, our incoming IR President for RY 2021-2022, Shekhar Mehta, made an appeal to the incoming leadership to focus humanitarian efforts on improving the life of young girls. Indeed, we need to be mindful of the issues women are facing every day so we can take actual steps to address them. Earlier, I said that the fact that we are still celebrating Women's Month means that the work for gender equality is still far from over. The work continues. Even God's creation wasn't complete on the sixth day after he created man. In Genesis, it said, God created man and everything was good. Yes, everything was good, but not complete. For God saw that it is not good for man to be alone. So he created woman to be man's partner. And God did not rest until he created woman. That completed God's creation. We may find everything good in our lives, but it is never complete without according our women the same equal opportunities for them to fulfill their dreams and aspirations and recognize them as partners in building our nation. As young poet Sasha Termete once said, a woman with a book and a pen has the power to move nations. A woman with a mind and a voice has the power to change worlds. Our club is celebrating its 55th charter anniversary next week. We are all male club and everything is good, but we are never complete without our lovely and supportive aunts. You may ask, why not open membership to women? Well, it's a work in progress. And I think I better stop here before I get into trouble. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, our lovely aunts, our district governor, Chacha Camacho, all Rotarians from the 67 Rotary clubs in our district, my classmates, Perfect Vision presidents, our Rotaractors, and all the other guests in attendance, please accept our heartfelt gratitude for taking time and sharing with us your thoughts on making change work for women. Once again, thank you, Senator Grace. Thank you very much. Amen. And as tokens of our appreciation for your time and service, we shall be giving you a copy of our 50th anniversary coffee table book, which contains our club's years of community service and fellowship, together with a bottle of red wine, for you to enjoy while going through the pages of our book, and, of course, flowers chosen by my Aunt Pam.
That's my favorite.
Thank you again. Thank you very much, Senator Grace.
Thank you, President Manzano.
Thank you so much, President Peter, for such a wonderful response. And hats off to your lovely first Aunt Pam for being the great woman behind you. And we acknowledge all your wonderful projects for this Rotary year. So now, before we ask President Peter to adjourn this meeting, may I ask everyone to turn on your cameras so we can have our photo op with our lovely, beautiful Senator Grace. All right. So, Ron, can you please assist everybody?
I want to. Second window. Third window. Fourth window. Fifth window. Last window. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you.
So,
Bye.
everyone, all right. So, on behalf of all the Rotary clubs, let me ask our classmate PVP Peter to adjourn this joint meeting.
Thank you, CP Mache. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati and the 67 Rotary clubs as my co-hosts, I now adjourn this joint meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Senator.
you.